Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Dr. Psych Mom Show. Today, we're going to be talking about when you're not attracted to your husband anymore, a common issue that I see in couples counseling. But before that, please do subscribe because the most recent episode was about whether never go to sleep angry is good advice. I really get into that one. And so it is not good advice, by the way, spoiler, but you should listen to why and what makes a relationship work and short-term versus long-term relationship satisfaction and growth and maturity, etc. So that's a good one to listen to. And of course, do join my Facebook group, please, if you like talking about these issues. It's a good core group of people in there and more coming all the time. And follow me on TikTok and YouTube and everywhere else, Facebook and Instagram and all that. I'm doing a lot more video now because that was requested. And it also is just what everybody's doing now. So, I got to get with the trends, people. And so please do follow me everywhere that you could possibly follow me. And that would be very appreciated. So anyhow, getting to today's topic. What do you do when you're not attracted to your husband anymore? Well, this is a common complaint of women, and so it's two types. Some women say they were never really attracted to their husband to begin with, which I've talked about in a different podcast, what to do if you were never attracted to your spouse. But some women say that they're just not attracted to him anymore, and this happens for many reasons. I mean, the big one that I always discuss is that there are just different hormones going on within monogamy than in the honeymoon stage. And so women have a lack of inhibition and they feel giddy and drunk on new love and new sex, and that kind of fades after the first couple of years. And when it fades, they can mistakenly think that there was some big decrement in like the man and how he's acting or dressing or looking or whatever. There usually isn't some sort of profound change after a couple of years. It's really just that the rose-colored glasses have worn off. And to help this, a lot of times only what's needed is basic education about how women work, and how their sex drive drops within monogamy. And this is really not an indicator of anything dire about the relationship, and instead what you need to do is kind of make time to have sex, to wait for to make the space for responsive desire to happen. I've obviously have a podcast on responsive desire, and so forth. But some people say like they can't even do that. They can't get in the mood at all. They can't even open themselves up to the prospect of potentially physically touching this person because they're so not attracted to him. And frequently that is because of there's some kind of change they feel in the guy. And sometimes there really is. I mean, the guy could have been acting a hell of a lot different during courtship, and he could have been I talk about ADHD, so it could have been like a hyper-focused courtship where the guy really does act like way, way more romantic and different. It could be that he put on weight and that he's dressing different and he's just doesn't really look the same. It could be hygiene. As many times as I hear this, I'm no longer surprised. People say their husband doesn't even brush his teeth once a day. I mean, like, who's going to be attracted to that? Nobody. So, I mean, there are changes in a man physically and emotionally, that being how he treats her and how he acts, that can lead to a tremendous lack of attraction. So usually in these cases, it's interesting because women that will give men feedback on basically everything else in the world, including their parenting and how they interact with their family and what they should do at their job and just like cleaning, housework, everything, will not say to a guy, I am not attracted to you in this way and I want you to see if we can fix it. They don't say that because, quote, it'll hurt his feelings. Well, it's going to hurt his feelings a lot more when it comes up on the 1-year anniversary of you not having sex with him, And so if there are things that can make you more attracted to your husband, think about them. I mean, do a deep dive. If there aren't, if you really feel like somehow he has changed so radically and there would be no coming back from it, and I mean, this usually only happens when you feel like this. It's really, if you dig deeper, it's not that there's such a big change, it's that you were never really that attracted to him in the first place. In that case, there's not much coming back from that, as I discussed in that other podcast. But In the case where you do feel like there are certain specific things that could really change it for you, then you have to advocate for yourself. And it doesn't matter if you hurt his feelings, because it's hurting his feelings a lot more not to have sex with you. And to beyond that, to just see that you're looking at him with kind of disgust, what you think is neutrality, but really is barely concealed disgust. And if you want to tell him to brush his teeth twice a day, tell him. You tell this to your kids. I mean, why not? And there's some people that are like, why should I have to tell like a grown-ass man to brush his teeth? I mean, why should, what kind of what is this philosophical treatise? I mean, he's not brushing his teeth. It doesn't fucking matter who should tell him. Somebody's got to tell him. You could come in and pay me to tell him. I'll tell him. I've told people before. But you know the way that I get the information, because I do virtual sessions, so I can't smell him. You tell me. And so you want to come in and tell me to tell him? Or would you maybe want to try to tell him yourself? That really expedites the process. And I'll tell you, men are never as offended by these things as the women think that they will be. And if they are, that's a them problem. You're trying to work on shit. You're trying to give concrete, practical ways that you may want to have sex with them. And if they respond like, well, fuck you, I don't need to brush my teeth. Well, fuck him. He doesn't need to have sex either. So, I mean, let's be real. So the first thing to do is to make kind of this list in your head. What are the things that would make it better for me, that where I could be attracted to him? Does he, go around since the pandemic in only shorts and a t-shirt, and the t-shirt is 15 years old? And, does he not wash enough? Does he make stupid jokes? Does he grab my boob and make a honking noise? Are there things, does he initiate in a joking little boy way? Like, it's more common than you realize. I mean, any of these things, it's like you could either come in and tell a therapist about him and the therapist will talk to him about it, or you could just fucking tell him yourself. And I really say the latter is better for your budget. I mean, it's better for the relationship than for a man to pay money to come in and be told by somebody else that maybe he ought to, take care of his basic hygiene and not do honking noises to your boobs. You could tell him this yourself. Now, if he's like, oh, yeah, right, most women would love it if their husband did that, then definitely he deserves the punishment of coming in and seeing somebody like me. But seriously, try first this very basic way of saying what bothers you, and many people, that will just slough off the top group of people where the guy is happy to change, or he's a little hurt, but he really will change and he'll roll with that. And there are people, honestly, that when the guy just starts like maybe going to the gym more, dressing up a little bit more, brushing his teeth a little more, not doing the honking boob thing, that, yeah, the woman can kind of get back to a place where she feels more attracted to him. That is possible. There are just certain things that guys do that are such turnoffs, and they're not even aware of it, that when they remove those things, then if the woman loves them, then the woman can kind of get herself back in the game, but if they keep doing these sorts of things that really erode the romantic connection, one of which is this kind of joking and or childlike sexual initiation. That's a big one that women hate. So tell your husband never to do it again. Never make a little child voice about sex, ever. And if you say that, then at least you're giving him information that he can work with. If, of course, you cannot possibly think about saying this because you're such a people pleaser and you're so kind of anxious about the idea of hurting his feelings, then yes, of course, a couples counselor can help you. So I'm not saying never, of course, I'm not a fool. I'm not saying never go to a couples counselor. I am a fucking couples counselor. But I'm saying so many people don't think that somebody will respond to a simple request, and the person will. And so they're waiting for years and years and years while things get worse and worse and worse, and resentment is mounting, and they're getting out of practice of having sex, of having a sexual bond even by itself. And then in retrospect, they could have mentioned this thing 6 months into the marriage, and then it could have helped a lot. So things, again, that fall into this bucket, things that make women not attracted to their husband, include this joking around, any sort of childlike behavior, any kind of not being clean or neat or taken care of. These sorts of things are big. Other things are when the woman thinks that the guy is a selfish prick. I mean, when the guy is just kind of doing him and just not being very romantic or thoughtful, or even being like mean or mocking, anything where the guy is a quote asshole that would be recognized by anybody as kind of asshole behavior. This is something that turns women off like a faucet. It's like totally not true that women go for assholes. Who goes for assholes? I've taught you guys this: women with low self-esteem. So the longer that a woman is married and the longer that she is on this earth, and particularly if she is in therapy or she's doing a lot of reading and she's become a mom and she's really thinking about herself as a woman and evolving, the better her self-esteem is going to get. So yeah, maybe at the beginning of the relationship, like if a guy treated you like shit, like you could be like so anxious that you would rush to please them. But as you grow as a woman and as an adult, you may no longer be turned on. You were never turned on. You were just made into this like an anxious state where you would do anything to get back in the guy's graces. But I mean, most women aren't turned on by assholes. There are some that are. But usually what I see more is that the woman is drawn to assholes because they're subconsciously like what she grew up with. One of the parents was an asshole. And so then she just anxiously tries to appease this asshole because that's what she saw in the other parent growing up, or that's how she interacted with the parent growing up. But then as she gets older and more confident, she no longer wants to walk on eggshells around an asshole. And in fact, the same behavior that used to make her like run toward him and try to make sure the relationship was secure, in fact, sometimes by initiating sex, is in fact now a complete turn off and makes her, it's like the death of her sex drive when he says something mean or cutting or sarcastic or just is generally unsupportive and selfish. This is positive, by the way. If you're becoming a person who no longer has tolerance for somebody treating you badly, great, wonderful, that's wonderful. But what you have to do is you have to catch your partner up to that party, like he's late to the party there. So you have to say, like, I am growing as a person. I no longer am okay with certain behaviors that you do. Going out with your friends and not picking up your phone, coming home drunk, staying up super late, playing video games and then letting me do the entire morning with the kids. Whatever the fuck the selfish behavior is, there's lots. Then if that is now a turn off to you and that's what's making you not attracted to your husband, then you got to tell him. And this is more of a situation for couples counseling because unlike in the first situation where the guy just doesn't understand that women don't like their boobs honked, this guy has an entire lifetime behind being an asshole, and you were in fact attracted to it, not attracted to it, but you were drawn to it and anxiously appeasing it at first, and now you changing that behavior is going to come as a major earthquake in the middle of the relationship. It changes the whole dynamic. So that's something that is useful to get into couples counseling for. And remember, if you've decided that somebody is that you're just not going to take somebody's shit anymore, that is a positive, assuming that they are rationally and objectively doing things that most people would consider to be bad things and selfish things, which is the case in a lot of cases. So what are some other reasons that women just aren't attracted to their husband anymore? I mean, they change. Forget about the honeymoon stage. They grow, they get older, they're on antidepressants, they're in perimenopause, they've had childbirth and kids and what have you, and they just do not feel like sexual entities anymore. But because the husband is the only guy that they even think about at all, they just assume they're not attracted to him. But if they do kind of a deep dive internally, they'll be like, wait, I'm not attracted to anybody else either. I don't want to have sex with anyone, and if that's the case, then it's not your husband's fault. And then that's the sort of situation where there's really not much to say to him, but rather to think about whether there are ways that you could reclaim your sexuality. And I talk about this a lot in other posts and podcasts where, you can see, are there things, can you go on different antidepressants? Can you get more time for exercise and self-care? Can you learn about responsive desire and foreplay such that even if you are never ever spontaneously in the mood again, you can understand that you can get there with time and effort, and you can understand what that effort may entail? Can you decide that you and your husband are going to get more time alone if that makes you feel, like somebody who is back in the game, when people get away from the kids, they can frequently feel more like their old selves. If they never ever get away from the kids, then they can mistakenly think that their sex drive is just gone forever, but in reality, your sex drive is just dormant, hiding from your loud children. So there's that as well. So there are many things that I've covered here. If any of them resonate with you, then obviously you should do some more thinking about how and in what ways you want to address the issues based on what the issues are. Again, if you've never been attracted to your husband, that is not the issue that I'm discussing here. That's a different podcast on when your spouse has never been attracted to you, or something with a pretty obvious headline there. But this is the case where there's been a big change and you're trying to figure out why. And of course, goes without saying, this would be useful for you to talk about in individual therapy. And this is a common issue, and a therapist can really help you explore the different variables that may be at play here that I've touched on. But of course, I can't touch on your unique situation unless you work with me individually, which is always possible. All right, I'll talk to everybody soon. Have a great day.